Okay, let's unpack this one. Imagine you're a DevOps or maybe a cloud engineer, right in the thick of it, operationally speaking. And you're monitoring systems. They're just constantly screaming, not like dozens, but thousands of alerts every single day. Does that sound familiar at all? Because if it does, you're probably dealing with something we call alert fatigue. It's this really pervasive, super frustrating problem. Maybe you felt it yourself. That just crushing overwhelm, right? Sifting through just endless noise, trying to spot the one thing that actually matters. Or maybe, even worse, getting paged at like 3 a.m. for something that, well, turns out to be totally trivial. Just a blip.
It's more than just annoying, though. It actually leads to missed critical incidents, teams getting completely burnt out, and you're just stuck in this constant reactive chaos. It's a really fundamental challenge in operations, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It really is. And, what's fascinating here, I think, is how machine learning, the cutting edge stuff, is fundamentally starting to reshape this whole picture. We're starting to move beyond those brittle, static thresholds that just generate so much noise. We're talking now about a pretty robust, intelligent solution. It combines fully managed ML anomaly detection, specifically using Amazon Lookout for metrics, with a smart, adaptive way to route alerts. So only the right information gets to your collaboration channels, like Slack or Teams. It's really about intelligently curating and dramatically cutting down that flood of alerts, turning the chaos into clarity, basically.
Right. So our mission today in this deep dive is to explore exactly how this powerful combination actually works. We want to show you how you can genuinely, cut through all that noise, spot those subtle issues that really do matter, and get that critical info to your team fast, but without the overwhelm, right? It's about being truly well informed, not just drowning in data. Okay, so we've kind of set the stage. The problem: alert fatigue. Teams looking at potentially thousands, maybe even tens of thousands of alerts daily. But let's dig a bit deeper. What's the real measurable impact this has on a team? It's got to be more than just a nuisance, right? There are real business consequences here.
Yeah, you're hitting the nail on the head there. The tangible impacts are, well, they can be quite severe. Beyond the obvious stuff like team burnout and, low morale, it directly leads to missed critical incidents. That's the big one. When your engineers are just wading through this deluge of irrelevant notifications, the actual problem, the one that's hitting your customers or costing you money, it just gets lost. It gets buried in the noise. Imagine maybe an S3 bucket suddenly has this subtle, persistent rise in latency, just for a specific type of request. Maybe not enough to blow a hard threshold, but definitely enough to degrade the customer experience slightly. In a world riddled with alert fatigue, that probably goes unnoticed until it blows up into a proper outage. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, these traditional thresholding approaches, they're just fundamentally too brittle. They can't really cope effectively at scale, especially in today's dynamic cloud environments. They just can't adapt. Your systems have normal patterns, right? Business cycles, maybe a spike during a sale, different activity on weekdays versus weekends, or even just subtle changes in background noise as your architecture evolves. Static thresholds, they can't handle that concept drift, where what's normal now might not be normal next month. So you end up either constantly fiddling with them or just tolerating this high volume of junk alerts. And that's precisely why teams feel like they can never quite stay on top of things.
Okay, so the traditional rules are falling short. That definitely raises the question: how do you actually pivot? How do you get from these rigid, brittle rules to, well, genuinely intelligent, adaptive insights? How do you teach a monitoring system what normal really looks like for your specific environment, especially when it's always changing?
Yeah, exactly. And that's precisely where services like Amazon Lookout for metrics become, well, pretty indispensable. It's not just another monitoring tool, right? It's a fully managed service. It uses sophisticated machine learning models refined by Amazon's own, decades of internal operational experience running massive systems. Its core job is to continuously ingest your time series data, and it can pull this from a really wide variety of sources, and that variety is actually key. So we're talking about critical operational metrics from the AWS services. You're probably already using CloudWatch, S3, RDS, Redshift, things like that. But it goes quite a bit beyond that, too. It can also pull data from external SaaS applications that you rely on, maybe Salesforce for sales data or Marketo for marketing metrics, or even your own internal custom apps if you push their metrics into S3 or another supported place. The real power comes when it starts correlating these different data streams, but the real game changer, I think, is that it doesn't rely on you defining rigid rules or constantly tweaking thresholds. Instead, it uses unsupervised machine learning.
It digs deep to understand your data's unique patterns. That includes things like seasonal cycles, daily peaks and valleys, weekly trends, monthly stuff, but also underlying business trends, and even the sort of unique background noise that's just part of your specific environment. And it's this deep learned understanding that allows it to accurately distinguish the true anomalies, those significant, statistically improbable deviations from just normal expected fluctuations. And honestly, here's the best part. It does all this heavy lifting without requiring you or your team to suddenly become machine learning experts. You don't need to build, train, or tune complex ML models yourself. Lookout for Metrics handles that.
Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting, especially for anyone who spent hours, fiddling with monitoring thresholds. It's essentially learning what's normal for your specific metrics in your business context. So instead of you setting a million thresholds and constantly adjusting them, it spots the weird stuff automatically. But what happens when normal itself changes significantly, like maybe a huge sales event, or you do a big infrastructure upgrade? Does the system relearn fast, or could there be a period where it gets things wrong, false positives or negatives, during those major shifts?
Yeah, that's a fantastic and really crucial question, because you're right, systems are never static. Lookout for Metrics is designed to continuously adapt. It builds up this baseline of normal behavior over time, right? And as your patterns shift, maybe because of that seasonal sale, a new feature launch, or just a gradual increase in users, its models automatically retrain and adjust that baseline. So while there might be a very, very brief adjustment period during a really sudden, drastic change, it's way more resilient and adaptive than any static threshold could ever hope to be. It means your monitoring system effectively evolves with your business, not against it. And that's a huge shift, really. It takes that burden of constant manual tuning right off your shoulders.
That adaptability definitely sounds key. Okay, so we've established this pretty sophisticated detection capability. But detection is only half the battle, isn't it? How does this actually translate into alerts that your team can use in their daily operations? Because getting the right info to the right people quickly, that's the other equally critical part of actually solving this alert fatigue problem.
Exactly. Yeah, spot on. It's all about ensuring those critical signals aren't just found, but that they're acted upon effectively, efficiently. So let's maybe walk through the end-to-end workflow, see how this translates into a practical, robust solution that ideally integrates pretty seamlessly into your existing incident response processes. Okay, first, you start by defining what are called detectors and data sets. You can think of a detector as basically an ML model that's specifically configured to watch a set of related metrics. You create these detectors focusing on your most operationally critical metrics, the numbers that really tell you if your business is healthy. For each metric, you assign measures, that's the actual numerical value, like API latency or DB connections, and up to 5 dimensions. Dimensions are the categories like region, service name, customer tier, maybe API endpoint. And the real power here is that the detector then learns the unique normal behavior for every single combination of these dimensions. So it can spot an anomaly that's only affecting, say, premium customers in the E region hitting your payment service. It gives you that really granular, actionable context. It's not just looking at an overall average, it understands the nuances inside your data.
Okay, so it's learning the specifics for all those different slices of data.
Exactly. And once your detector is set up and has learned its baseline, the system moves into the ML-driven anomaly detection and impact analysis phase. This is where it really diverges from the older, less intelligent ways of doing things. Instead of just simple, rule-based alerts, which, as we know, are notorious for generating noise, Lookout for Metrics only surfaces anomalies that are statistically significant. Now, this isn't just flagging any tiny blip. Statistically significant means the deviation from that learned normal pattern is so pronounced, it's highly unlikely to be just random chance. The system is basically saying, hey, this is genuinely unusual and you should probably look at it. That alone dramatically reduces noise from minor expected variations. But even more powerfully, it then prioritizes these anomalies based on their estimated business impact. So maybe a small but statistically significant drop in conversions gets flagged higher than a similar statistical blip in some non-critical internal metric. This drastically cuts down the volume of relevant alerts. It ensures that what actually reaches your team is truly important and likely needs attention now.
All right, so it's not just, is it weird, but is it weird and does it matter?
Precisely. Then comes the alert routing and custom actions piece, which is vital for preventing that overload. When a significant anomaly is identified, Lookout for Metrics publishes a notification to Amazon SNS Topics Simple Notification Service. SNS is great because it acts as a fan-out mechanism. You can send these notifications to multiple places. And from SNS, you typically use AWS Lambda functions. These Lambda functions are incredibly flexible. They can apply more filtering if you want, maybe using another ML model, or just some simple rules to refine the alerts even further. Crucially, they can also aggregate related anomalies. So let's say 10 different metrics all go haywire at the same time because of one underlying root cause. Lambda can consolidate those into a single comprehensive notification. This intelligent orchestration means that only these consolidated actionable alerts get routed to your Slack channel or your Teams chat. It stops your teams from just drowning in duplicated, fragmented, or trivial notifications about the same core issue.
Okay, that aggregation sounds super important for not getting spammed.
Yeah, it really is. And finally, there's a crucial mechanism that makes the whole system continuously improve and get even more precise over time. The feedback loop. Your teams can actually provide feedback on the alerts they receive. They can do this via the AWS console or through APIs. They can mark an alert as, yep, this was helpful, accurate, or, importantly, nope, this was a false positive. Lookout for Metrics then takes this feedback and incorporates it to continuously refine its detection models. This process boosts the precision. It effectively teaches the system what's truly relevant in your specific operational world, which further minimizes that alert fatigue over time. Imagine maybe a certain type of alert was initially flagged as a false positive a few times by your team. Over time, the system learns maybe not to flag similar patterns, or at least to adjust its sensitivity for that specific metric. It gets smarter.
So it learns from experience, essentially.
Exactly. And just to touch on operations quickly, this solution is also pretty flexible. It supports various ingestion frequencies. You can get data in as often as every 5 minutes for near real-time stuff, or just daily for less critical metrics. It fits different workloads. Plus, it handles security properly. You can use your own user-configurable encryption keys, KMS keys, to protect your operational data, both when it's stored and when it's moving around.
Okay, let's really unpack the so what here. Why should you, as someone listening, maybe a DevOps leader, maybe an engineer on the ground, why should you actually care about implementing this kind of solution? What are the tangible real-world benefits teams have actually seen? Beyond just, the theory of fewer alerts. Because this sounds incredibly powerful, almost maybe too good to be true for teams who are constantly battling alerts day in, day out. Are there any, common pitfalls, or maybe specific types of data where Lookout for Metrics might struggle a bit?
Yeah, no, that's a fair challenge, and it's important to be realistic, absolutely. While the benefits are really significant, like any powerful tool, you do need to understand its strengths and, its limitations. But the benefits that teams have realized, they are genuinely quite profound, and they directly hit those pain points of alert fatigue we discussed. So one of the absolute most critical ones is a dramatic reduction in false positives. We're talking compared to traditional thresholding here. Often it's a 70 to 90% cut in just the sheer volume of alerts, sometimes even more. And that isn't just a number, right? That translates directly into a huge improvement in team sanity, productivity, morale even. Imagine your engineers spending, say, 70% less time chasing ghosts. That's real time. They can now dedicate to innovation, proactive work, critical development. I know one major e-commerce company reported reducing their alert volume by over 80%. That completely transformed their on-call experience.
Wow, 80% is huge.
It really is. And beyond just cutting noise, this kind of system enables the early detection of subtle but still business-critical issues, stuff that might just fly under the radar with simpler monitoring. Think about those gradual latency spikes creeping up over hours on just one specific API, or subtle transaction drops affecting only, say, mobile users. These often don't immediately breach a static threshold, but Lookout for Metrics, because it understands the nuanced normal, can often spot these emerging problems before they escalate into major incidents that customers start complaining about. It helps you be proactive, not just reactive.
Spotting things earlier. Yeah, that's key.
Definitely. It also provides centralized anomaly root cause analysis. Because the system prioritizes by business impact and, as we said, aggregates related anomalies, your first responders get a much clearer picture. They get more focused context when an incident does happen. They don't have to manually piece together clues from a dozen different fragmented alerts. The system helps narrow down the possibilities, providing valuable pointers that help them act faster and more decisively. That directly impacts your MTTR, your mean time to resolution.
Right, faster fixes.
Exactly. And then, of course, there's the seamless integration we talked about into tools like Slack or Teams. This means you get instant contextual alerts delivered right where your teams are already working. But without that overwhelming flood of irrelevant stuff, teams get actionable insights in their workflow, which fosters quicker responses, better collaboration across different functions, and just a more streamlined incident management process overall. It really is moving from information overload to informed action.
Makes sense.
Now, about those potential pitfalls or challenges you asked about. Yeah, while Lookout for Metrics handles a ton of the ML complexity, you still need good data going in. Clean, consistent, relevant data. If your data sources are unreliable or incomplete or just noisy themselves, well, the ML model is going to struggle to learn accurate patterns. Garbage in, garbage out still applies to some extent. Also, while it requires minimal ML expertise to get started, understanding your business metrics, knowing which numbers truly matter for your operations, that's still absolutely paramount. It's not like a magic bullet that removes the need for human insight into your own business. It's more like a powerful amplifier for that insight.
So understanding your own context is still key.
Absolutely. So, in summary, I'd say the key to really solving alert fatigue at scale is making that fundamental shift. You move away from those brittle, static rules that just struggle with dynamic cloud environments. Instead, you adopt an intelligent ML-based system like Amazon Lookout for Metrics, and you combine it with flexible alert routing pipelines that intelligently aggregate and prioritize those alerts, sending them right into your team's collaboration tools. This fundamentally changes how your operations teams work. It enables them to focus on fixing real problems quickly instead of just chasing noise all day. It's about transforming that constant firefighting into a more strategic, informed response.
That really does sound like a powerful transformation. It's truly about vastly improving that signal-to-noise ratio, boosting team effectiveness, really across the board. And as you said, sounds like it's been proven by quite a few AWS customers who scaled this up to monitor thousands of metrics while keeping that alert noise actually manageable and actionable. The best part, maybe, is what you mentioned about minimal ML expertise needed to get started. That means existing DevOps teams can likely begin leveraging this power relatively quickly. Although I guess you can always bring in expert guidance later to really tailor it, fine-tune it for specific business needs or more complex situations.
Exactly. This solution really elegantly handles those massive alert volumes. It applies sophisticated ML detection and smart alert orchestration. It fundamentally shifts a team from that state of reactive chaos to one of proactive, informed action. It just transforms how you respond to incidents, allowing you to be genuinely well-informed without being completely overwhelmed. So, if your teams are no longer drowning in alerts, constantly sifting noise, what new innovative projects could they actually tackle? What does this shift really mean for the future of proactive operations? Are we truly ready for a world where our systems tell us what's broken, even subtly, before we even know it?
Yeah, definitely a lot to think about there. That's all for this deep dive.